Welcome to a new podcast on the YouTube channel Virgen María del Buen Suceso. I am your host, Santiago Villarreal. Today we continue with the special interviews about Our Lady of Buen Suceso. On this time, we have the presence of John Polcin Tertiary Paul, a devoted person to Our Lady of Buen Suceso that appeared in Quito, Ecuador 400 years ago. Welcome, John. Thank you for accepting this interview. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, Santiago.
Perfect. So if you think that this is okay, we are going to start with an Ave Maria in Latin. Okay.
Absolutely.
Ave Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen.
Okay, so I know that you became a very devoted person to Our Lady of Buen Suceso. I'm happy that you have chosen this advocation to Our Lady in order to, get to heaven. That's the final goal that we all have, correct?
Absolutely.
So, John, how did you discover this devotion, this advocation of Our Lady of Buen Suceso in the first place?
So for me, we had a devotion to her at the chapel that I go to. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I've always gone to mass at our chapel, St. Michael's, in De Pere, Wisconsin. And I don't remember the year, but the priest that we had there, at the time he was independent, and he had developed a devotion to her, and we actually have a full-size statue of her in our candle chapel, and so we've had that there. There's been a pledge to Our Lady of Buen Suceso of the Purification that we've been saying for years, and so I never really had a great devotion to her. We actually, I had one of the cards that we would use in our pews at home. I had a couple of them, and there was God will send us trials, as I'm sure you know, that are for our sanctification. And there was a time in our life, well, mine and my wife's life, where so my wife and I have 14 children. 8 of them are with us, but we had 6 miscarriages, including 1 stillborn son. And our son Joseph, he was 20 weeks old when he passed, and that was a very trying time in my life. And I remember after that had happened, I was outside in my garage late at night. It was really early in the morning. I work a shift that normally rotates. Some weeks are the day shift, some the night shift. And I saw that card. I had it up on my workbench, and I started praying that prayer more regularly. And then not too long afterwards, actually on Facebook, somebody had asked on one of the Society of St. Pius X pages about the Third Order. And I'd never heard of the Third Order. I was born and raised traditional Catholic, but I didn't know, I wasn't as deep in my faith as I suppose as I could have been. And so in the Third Order, I started looking into that. And when I read about that, I knew that was absolutely what I wanted to do. And so the district chaplain of the United States is Father Adam Purdy. And so I looked him up. I wanted to know who he was, and I ended up finding some videos on YouTube. And when I listened to his videos, it it drew me in so strong, and part of it was because of um, his clarification on her title. I never knew. I never heard her title in Spanish. I our devotion at St. Michael's was always to Our Lady of Good Success, and that it just, to me, it just didn't sound right. And after watching his videos, and when he explained that it was Our Lady of the Good Event of the Purification, it was just eye opening for me, and it really made me jump in that much more. And between those videos and then just really digging in and doing some research on it, it she pulled me into it. That's I think the big part, because I mean, there's so much to those to these apparitions, but I think that there's a serious reason why her title is just now really being vastly understood, especially in the English-speaking country. And in that prayer to her that I was so familiar with, it says that I promise, or that you will help to spread this devotion. And well, if I say I'm going to help to spread a devotion while I'm praying to the Blessed Virgin Mary, then I'm going to do it. And she's really just pulled me in. There's so many occasions where, I would get a little bit of pushback, especially when I would talk about the clarification letter. And I've prayed to Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification, many, many times, that if I wasn't doing and saying what she wanted, I asked her to stop me. I asked her to not make it happen. And it seems every time that I would pray that or ask her to help me, something profound would happen. Actually, Santiago, that's how I found your YouTube channel, Traditional Quito. I had just gotten done praying that prayer not long before, and I put her title in on YouTube, and this time you popped up. You were being interviewed. I don't remember what the name of the show was that you were on, but listening to you speak was very uplifting to me. Hearing somebody from Quito, Ecuador, saying the same thing that I was saying, and that's the thing is, I'm not saying anything new or different when we talk about her, but we're echoing her message, and that's what's really important, is giving a clear message of what she said. And there have been several different times where that's happened, where I think she wants me to be doing this. We'll just say that.
Yeah, so you became a very devoted person of Our Lady of Buen Suceso. How do you see yourself before and now that we are on the 30th of January, just a couple of days before February the 2nd, when the Feast of Our Lady 2023 is going to happen again after two feasts that we missed because of the pandemic, and all the problems that we have worldwide. So how do you see yourself? What was the year that you really became a devoted person to Our Lady, and how do you see yourself now?
I would say it was 2019. Is that right? I believe it was 2019 that I started to learn more about her, and what the apparitions were really about. It's just escalated. And one beautiful thing is, I have dyslexia, so I can read, but I'm a very slow reader. And so for me to just grab this book or that book, it it would take me a very long time. But Our Lady's put all these different, I mean, between your video, Father Purdy's video, um, different sources online, I've been able to get a lot of information, even with not being able to dedicate the amount of time I would need to read as much as I would like to about her. But you know, I would do anything for our Blessed Mother. I would do anything for her. And you know, so actually, speaking of how there were the lockdowns in 2021 and 2022, last year, um, I was really upset that you weren't able to do the public procession. And so, since we have a life-size statue of Our Lady of Buen Suceso, I I asked our priest. Uh, we don't have Father Bolduc anymore. I suppose I should clarify that he died in, I believe it was 2013, and then uh, the Society of Saint Pius X came in, and the priest that's there right now, I had asked him if, since we have the full size statue, if we could do a small procession with her statue and bring her from the candle chapel into the sanctuary and uh, have her sitting there during candle mass. And he was very gracious and allowed it. And uh, I remember that you and I were talking quite a bit at that time, and you're telling me how drastic the lockdowns were getting, and really how uh, uh, terribly the church was, and not just there, but everywhere. The churches weren't letting people in, weren't allowing the sacraments. And that was that was really one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do that procession. And we did it. And Santiago, do you remember when the churches reopened? That was last year. Because if I'm not mistaken, after we did that procession with the intention of doing it, not so much in place of the procession there, but uh, uh, in union with what should have been happening there. But I think it was very shortly after everything, at least for the most part, was lifted in Quito.
Yeah. What I remember is that first, I just don't remember the date that the churches in Old Town of Quito. So for everyone that's watching this video, Quito is more than 2 million people city. It is the capital of Ecuador, and we have a very nice and the best conserved old town. I mean, I think in South America, they call it like the little Rome. So it's a very beautiful place
Okay.
that I invite people to come. And so they started to open the different churches all around Quito and especially in Old Town. So there were already other churches open, like very old churches, because well, in Old Town we have only old churches. Most of them were already opened, but the monastery's church, the monastery of the Immaculate Conception's church, where Our Lady of Buen Suceso usually is brought down from the upper choir to be venerated during the novena and feast of her feast. Sorry, and in May and October wasn't open. It was very weird because it was the only church not opened, and we were very
Really?
sad. So I remember that we did a public rosary. Do you remember that I told you, I think, and we did it outside the gates of the church. The doors were closed, and we just knelt
Yes.
down, like 15 people, almost maybe 20 people there, and we prayed a third part of the rosary. And The only good thing of that day that I remember is that, of course, the nuns were having private masses inside the church. So the doors were opened, and for a couple of minutes, we could see from far away. I mean, just like a distance of like 60 meters, maybe.
I
Or
do remember that. You sent me a picture.
Yes. So we were very sad about it, and then the church ended this lockdown. I mean, the Church of the Immaculate Conception's monastery, right? And it
Sure.
was opened before Ash Wednesday. I think
Okay.
it was on Sunday, the Sunday just before Ash Wednesday. So I think it
Okay.
was the 20. So it was the 27th of February because Ash Wednesday
Okay.
was on March the 2nd. Uh,
Okay.
so so yeah, 27th of February, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken. That day, the church was open again, and I went on Monday because we had holiday that day, and I went to visit Our Lady on Monday. I was so happy to be inside that church again. It was like a
Oh,
miracle, and
absolutely.
I'm sure that your prayers and the prayers of all the devoted people that to Our Lady of Buen Suceso all around the world and in Quito
Oh,
worked.
and yours and your rosaries outside, and that's the big thing is, it's not what it's not what I did or what you did or what any of us on the, no, nobody should say that, oh, look what I did. But the big thing is that we did something that was honestly, and I mean, all of us that prayed for it, was we did something honestly to honor her. And and she came and she helped us. And that's why it everything opened up again. And I'm sure she'll continue to help us in our anything that comes up in the future.
Absolutely, I agree with you. She's gonna help us, and then I was happy to have Our Lady on the altar, entire month of May and the entire month of October. That was a big blessing, and I'm glad that they re- that the nuns retook that practice, that tradition of having Our Lady three times every year. So now we are having our. I'm just remembering our first novena after the lockdown. So it is a great blessing to see her every day, and it's
Oh,
amazing because see how her face changes every day as the presence of Our Lady is there. And you're going to explain more about this devotion and the story of Mother Mariana and Our Lady of Buen Suceso. So I'm going to ask you another question.
yes.
So after you became you became a keen devoted person to Our Lady of Buen Suceso, uh, I realized that you started to spread the devotion. So, what have you done so far to spread the devotion by your own means during these last 3 years?
So what I've done is uh and and really I don't think I've done a whole lot, but first I wanted to make her more known just locally at our chapel, at our church. We I don't think that we really knew much about who she is. And I'm sure that over the years I had heard the name before, but I didn't know who Mother Mariana of Jesus was. Um, and so I wanted to try to spread the devotion within our chapel first. And I just I thought that if that's what Our Lady wanted, it would happen. And so it started out with I started thinking about it a little bit, and after reading the clarification letters from the Conceptionist nuns, I had asked our priest if I could print some out and put them out in our it's like a magazine rack that we have there. And so he approved of that, and I did it. And after a little while, so we have we had those cards in the pews, and I wanted to put her proper title on there, and there was a man that ended up coming to our chapel for a short while, and he was familiar with the devotion, and we spoke on it, and I worked with Father Purdy on it, and I got the permission from our priest, and in speaking with Father Purdy about it as well, he was actually able to send me a picture of Our Lady that was taken by I don't know the name of the person that took the picture, but somebody sent this image for our cards from Quito to Father Purdy, who got it to me, and then I had the cards printed up with the proper title. I'll hold one up real quick so you can see it. So those are the cards, and then it has that prayer on the back. And the cards have been one of the main ways that I've spread the devotion, because what I'll do is so we had some people in order to get the cards made. There were a few people that donated some money. One being my mother, who my mother she fell in love with the devotion as well. I think that it was a combination of Our Lady pulling her in as well, and I think that she could see how passionate I was about spreading devotion to her. And I mean, I think that there's a certain aspect of these cards that are a little bit of a legacy of my mother. She passed away November in 2021. One beautiful thing about when my mother died, she died on November 21st of 2021, and my mother's name is Mary Polcin. And November 21st is the feast of the presentation of Mary in the temple. And that spring, my mother and I both made our total consecration to Mary on the feast of the Queenship of Mary. And on November 21st, the morning that my mother died, my son John Jr. and my daughter Stella both made their total consecration to Mary that morning. But just a beautiful fact about my mother's devotion as well. But so what I've done with these cards is I will talk about her, Our Lady of Buen Suceso and Purification to anybody, and I've used social media for that quite a bit. And so what I've done is we got a pretty large quantity of these cards made up, and so what I will do is I'll go on social media and I will tell people about her, and then I'll offer to send cards to them. And as of right now, we have cards that have gone. These cards have made it to. They're in Canada, several of the states in the United States. I believe at least 3 islands in the Philippines, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and I thought I sent some to China. And very soon I will be sending some to a man in Africa that would like some. And Our Lady said that this title would be the safeguard of the faithful during the time of crisis. And I think that we have to look out for our own souls. We want salvation as being members of the Holy Catholic Church. We should desire the salvation of everybody's soul. And not to say that you can't be saved if you don't know of Our Lady of Buen Suceso and Purification, but she said she would be a safeguard. And I think we could all use that during these times. We we need. I think we need our mother.
Yeah, we need our mother on these times.
Um,
Okay, so in order to continue to learn more about this devotion, I know that you know more information than me in English, so I'd like you to introduce all of us to Mother Mariana of Jesus Torres and Maria Ochoa. What's a short summary of her history and of the apparitions of Our Lady of Buen Suceso of the Purification or Candle Mass for all the new audience that doesn't know anything about Our Lady, and it would be nice for you, in this case, you to introduce her to them.
sure, that's an honor to do so. So, um, Mother Mariana, she was born to very a pious mother and father, and at 13, that's when she set out to live with the Conceptionists, and she ended up making her vows. I don't recall what year it was, um, but she lived a very holy life, and she had a very miraculous um, instance actually when she made her first Holy Communion, where she saw the child Jesus right before she made her first Holy Communion, and if I'm not mistaken, it was at that time that he told her that she would be his spouse, so that she would be a nun, and she had uh, uh, she was a victim soul, and she was willing to do it. Um, when uh, in well, there were several apparitions, and she was. I think the thing that's the most immediately relevant that we should know and understand, and then build off of, is that she was willing to sacrifice herself essentially for us during this time. Um, she was shown what the state of the church would be. She was shown what filth would be in the streets, and that our children would be exposed to, which has just taken it's been moved into such a fast pace, just especially after the lockdowns. And not to say that they're necessarily relevant, but evil is stirring all over the world, and they're going after the children. And she suffered for for us to make it through. We um, there's you always hear the saying that we always hope that our grandmothers are in heaven praying for us, and you'll hear references of how many rosaries must have been said for us by our grandmothers to get us where we are. And she's she is that. Mother Mariana is that also for all of us um, who have grace in these times. She suffered awful torments, physical, spiritual, in order for us to have the grace that we need to to remain in grace during these times. And she was a beautiful soul. She's as you know, Santiago, she's uh, one of several of the Conceptionist sisters, nuns from the time that from the who had died in the um, 1600s, who were incorrupt, as a sign to us of her holiness.
And okay, so
Beautiful.
as we will keep with the interview, we keep going with the interview. I'd like you to tell us about the apparitions of Our Lady. Just a summary for people who haven't heard about it. Have just um, have some details about it, and then for them to look it up on the internet.
Yeah. So um, one of the big things about it is um, she spoke about our time. That's what people usually grasp at right away. Is that she spoke to Mother Mariana about our time about sacrifice. She told about the awful things that would be seen. One of the things that Mother Mariana suffered and even died for, Mother Mariana had died 3 times in her life. And I believe it was the second time. I've got a note here somewhere of when she died. So she died the first time in 1582. The second death was on Good Friday in 1588. And that was after seeing the heresies that would take place that Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification, told her about and showed her. And then we actually just missed it's not technically a feast day because she's not canonized yet. I pray and have faith that she will be canonized. I do believe she's a saint. But she died on January 16th, the final time, in 1635. And I believe that it was the time in 1588 that she died from being, she was stabbed in the heart with 3 swords that were going to go. So she saw Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification, but she also saw Christ himself. And in this one apparition, she saw that 3 swords were going to go into Jesus Christ. And she was told that she could take those swords. And those swords were for the sins of blasphemy, heresy, and impurity. And she said, "Thy will be done." And she did what was most pleasing to God, and she received those swords, which killed her. And she was allowed to come back. And she was allowed to come back, but she didn't have to. As it's written, she was at God's throne, and she was blameless, and so she was ready to walk through the pearly gates into heaven. But she was offered to come back to suffer for us, to suffer more for us, for our salvation, and she did. So Our Lady spoke a lot about the heresies, the troubles, the calamities of our time. But one thing that she really spoke of a lot was the religious life, and that's what you really don't hear a lot. You don't hear a whole lot about that end of it. The importance of the religious life for our children. Our children are so exposed. I think one of her greatest messages that are relevant right now is that she spoke so much of what our children would be exposed to, and the lack of sacraments for us, and for our children to grow up to not have baptism, the very first sacrament that begins the life of grace. I mean, without baptism, you're like a dead man walking, and so many children are neglected of that. And then without that, and even if they are fortunate or have the grace to be baptized, how many baptized children aren't receiving the other sacraments? Don't even make their first confessions. But they're raised to not know the importance of the sacraments, and then to Holy Communion, to not receive Holy Communion, or to not even care about Holy Communion. He who eats of my flesh and drinks of my blood has life in me. That's what Christ told us, and it's an absolute travesty that that's the state of the world right now. But Our Lady told us that what's really important right now is the religious life, and not just right now, but throughout history. But the religious life is so important because they're the ones, those we talking about Mother Mariana. There are holy religious people right now. They're holy religious, consecrated souls. Not nearly as many as there were before the middle of the 20th century. That's one of the big prophecies as well, is that there would be a great, as in large, a grand event that would happen in the middle of the 20th century that would be detrimental to the church. And that prophecy has absolutely come true in the Vatican II Council and what followed afterwards with the new mass. And you can see it if you look at the numbers of vocations, the drop in vocations, and the changing of all seven sacraments. She prophesied that all seven sacraments would be changed, and we have that right now. But with the again with the religious life, we need them praying for us. We all do, the laymen and the religious themselves. We in the Catholic Church, we lean on each other, and we really need those religious to be able to lean on them. Archbishop Lefebvre, as an example, when he was a missionary in Africa, he was building schools, churches, and when he was stationed somewhere, he would put in requests. I know of at least one time, but I would suspect it was more than once, depending on how much he moved around, that he requested for them for Rome to institute. I believe it was a Carmelite convent in that vicinity, because he knew the importance of their prayers. And with the state of the world right now, and with the terrible education that our children are getting between the school systems, public school systems, and with all of the influences in the world, that nobody cares. Nobody cares about the religious life. And I mean, that's one of the greatest tragedies of our time. Actually, with one thing that she had said about the children was that there would be an unbridled luxury that would be detrimental to their souls, to their salvation. And she was speaking of this time. And if you look, it's not hard to find. I think it's in technology. And not to say that all technology is bad. We're using technology right now to be able to spread devotion to Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification. But how many kids aren't running around on tablets and phones and getting into anything that they want to? And here's the thing too: how many of those children aren't baptized? And some of them, even if they are they brought up getting proper catechesis and knowing, loving, and serving God, so that they can be with Him forever in the next, as we begin our catechism? If they don't have that grace, there's nothing keeping them from getting into anything that they want to get their hands on through technology. And she also gave us a message of hope, and that's very important that we don't miss that. She told us that there would be a prelate that would come for the preservation of the church. Now I don't know if there's if there's any opinion on that in Quito by you, Santiago. But that I've, especially as of recently. Um, it's kind of funny. One way that I spread devotion to her is I follow a lot of the main uh, good Catholic uh, YouTube channels, and there have been a lot of times where I'll go into the comments and I'll type out "Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification, pray for us," and there have been a few cases where they'll read that if it's in the live chat, and uh, there's but there was just one YouTube figure that just recently had an episode about Archbishop Lefebvre, that he believes that he was the prelate that was spoken of. And, I've heard that some people say definitely not, can't be, because the prelate was supposed to request, make the request to Rome that the Conceptionist monastery, the monastery of the Immaculate Conception, would be restored to the Franciscan order and not be under the diocese. And I guess we just don't know if he ever did anything like that. And I'm not going to claim that he did, but I do know that he had contact with Rome. He was I don't remember the title, but um, he was the head of the Holy Ghost Fathers for a time, with his missionary work, and I know that he was in communication with Rome a lot during that time. And one thing that I don't know is, in that prophecy of him making that request for the monastery to be returned to the Franciscan order, does it have to be that he requested it exclusively? Because if not, then I could see it being much more reasonable that it was him, because I could see him requesting that the orders were given. I can't think of the word. Given the authority back in their monasteries, and whether or not that would have fulfilled that, I can't say. I don't know, but I think that that's a very real possibility that could have been done in that manner. But with the work that he did, I cannot fathom that we would have any traditional Catholicism today, if he wouldn't have done that. I mean, I know that God wouldn't have left us without the sacraments of our forefathers. I don't think he would have left us. But it's pretty clear that Archbishop Lefebvre was the one that he chose to continue his work.
Okay, so let's move ahead with the questions. So we just talked about the apparitions, a little bit about Mother Mariana. Now, I'd like you to tell us about the statue. I know that the statue is a miracle, because it is not a normal statue. There's a story that happened with that statue, and that it was finished by the heavenly hands. So I don't know if you could tell us the story of the statue and why this statue of Our Lady of Buen Suceso is so important for the devotion that we all are having in these days.
Absolutely. So Our Lady asked Mother Mariana to have the statue made of her as she appeared. Mother Mariana, when she asked how tall she was at one point, Our Lady asked her for her Franciscan cord, and she handed it up to her, and she held it up to her head, and it actually extended to the length of the height of Our Lady of Buen Suceso. And so she requested it a few times. And I think Mother Mariana I think she was a little afraid to ask the bishop to have it made and to have it consecrated, similar to how a bishop would be consecrated with the holy oils. So she did make the request, and they were having the statue made, and the statue is made out of wood, which, I mean, after 400 years, should be the integrity should be depleted considerably. But she looks absolutely beautiful. She looks like that statue looks like it was made yesterday. Um, uh, and so when the artist that was doing the paint, if I'm not mistaken, he went to get more paint to try to make the faces beautiful and realistic as he could. And while he was gone, I don't know what the time frame was, if it was a matter of hours or days, but he was gone. And Mother Mariana looked at the statue, and the archangels, Gabriel, Michael, and I can't think of the third. Who's the third?
Raphael.
Raphael. Thank you. Along with Saint Francis, their seraphic father, was they painted her face. That's one aspect about the statue at our chapel that we don't have. It's absolutely beautiful, but does not you'll never be able to get that exact same face. And yeah, so they completed the statue, and it was absolutely miraculous. The fact that it still has the integrity that it does is proof of it, just like the tilma of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Well, it was Juan Diego's tilma, how it still holds the image of Our Lady. This statue has that similar nature to it, where it's not of this world. It's miraculous. And actually, there have been other miracles with that statue as well. There is documentation of in 1917, if I'm not mistaken, it was 1917, that the statue blinked. You know what? I think I might be wrong on that year, because there's another image. I'm sure you're aware of it in Quito, known as Our Lady of Quito. It's an image of our sorrowful mother, where it shows the Immaculate Heart of Mary pierced with swords, and that image blinked. That, I believe, was in 1917, but the statue of Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification, blinked. I want to say it was the late 30s, 1930s, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
1941. It was in
1941. I was kind of close.
July 1941.
Okay. Yeah. So even fairly recent miracles that we know of, and I've heard that in the monastery throughout these centuries, that so Mother Mariana suffered for us, and as I said before, the religious, they do sacrifices, penances, I should say, and they offer things up for God and for the salvation of our souls. And I've read that as Mother Mariana had died, there was another to suffer for us, and then after she died, there was another to continue suffering for us. And as it was written that I can't quote the source. I don't remember where I read it. But there is continuously. So even right now, there is a conceptionist nun who is suffering for us. Um, uh, but yeah, that's the statue, and it's such a beautiful gift that she gave us, so that we can almost uh, look right at her. You know, that's exactly how she appeared.
So now I think there's a very important question that I'm going to do right now, do this moment is about why this advocation is important, is necessary for our time.
I think that it's um, I think, in my opinion, um, I mean, all of the apparitions that are true, it's our Blessed Mother, you know. So she is just as magnificent in one as she is the other. But this devotion, I think, I know for myself, I can say, um, there seems to be a completion with it. Um, I think that um, I think that it was it was so complete and it's so relevant to our time, specifically in what she said, um, that it just resonates so well. I mean, not that like Fatima speaking about our time and everything as well, but I think that there was just more revealed in um, in this apparition, um, and I feel like, with her saying that um, this title would be the support and safeguard of the faithful during this time of crisis, she's telling us something there. You know, this is the only apparition that I'm aware of that um, she so profoundly used a specific title. So, she had said in another, "I'm the Immaculate Conception," and that was to identify herself, but she didn't say, "My name is the Immaculate Conception, and this is what you should call me." But here she said that she is Maria del Buen Suceso de la Purificación. That that's saying what her name is. That's what she wants to be known as. And one thing that's relevant to what I'm saying now, and the with the nature of the statue, is the crozier and the keys that she holds. That crozier is essentially her sign of um, her leadership and her rule over the Conceptionist uh, nuns, and the keys are the keys to the monastery. She has the rule, and we should listen to them when they speak, because um, uh, she is their guide. She is their leader, and I think that with that um, authority that she has in this apparition, um, I think that really resonates with me a lot too. Um, and I think that sometimes people are more drawn to different aspects of the faith, whether it be different apparitions, um, uh, approved apparitions, and or even devotions to different saints. And I definitely feel drawn into this apparition and to Mother Mariana. The, Mother Mariana and Our Lady are inseparable, and that's one of the big things too that I want to achieve, is helping to spread that. Knowing more about Mother Mariana and the example that she gave to us, And not everybody is called to suffer. We may be, and God's will be done, just as Mother Mariana said. But um, she would have said that no matter what he asked of her. It didn't have to be suffering. He could have asked her to do anything, and that would have been her answer. And that's the disposition of soul that we should all have. And when it's made clear what God wants from us, which it isn't always, but He has ways of guiding us through providence, and we should follow that. And so I guess to sum up your question, the example of Mother Mariana uh, in her obedience and um, uh, her desire for unity in her will to God's, and um, Our Lady directly telling us that under this title, or I apologize, this title would be the support and safeguard um, of the faithful during this time of crisis. And I think that it's more than clear that we are in that time of crisis, and uh, I want to be by her side.
I think that something very important that you said is that we just feel attracted to this devotion. We just feel attracted to the life of Mother Mariana, of Jesus Torres and Mary Ochoa, and Our Lady of Buen Suceso, of the Purification and Candle Mass. It's like
Mhm.
we. I just cannot. For example, in my case, I cannot explain why I'm attracted to it. It's just like I feel the need of try to love her and share her message to other people, and especially Ecuadorians and
Yes.
Spanish speaking people all around the world. And it's just I just say to myself that there's a need to make her known. It's
Yes.
like so. My next question is about do you think that it is necessary to spread the devotion all around the world?
Um, we speaking of the other apparitions that are close to you, there's actually one that's not terribly far from me, and it's an approved Marian apparition, Our Lady of Good Help. She appeared in Champion, Wisconsin, and there's a pilgrimage there every year that's called the Walk to Mary. I want to say it's 21 miles or 25 miles. That I'm not sure how many people go, but it's a pretty big pilgrimage. Um, uh, um, I went there last year. I wasn't able to do the whole walk with uh, um, I, it was I was going to do it, but initially just a couple of my older children wanted to come with, but then the younger ones wanted to come too, and it would have been too much of a walk. But we drove there and walked the grounds where she had appeared, and it was beautiful. Um, but as to what is it necessary to spread the devotion? Um, I think that it's as necessary for me to spread this devotion as to the extent that she guides me in doing it. So as long as I feel like she is guiding me and I'm doing what is pleasing to her, that's how far I'll go, and that's um, uh, how much I'll put into it. And there's times where I would get a lot of people asking for cards or just having conversation through social media about her. But then there would be dry times where there wasn't anything, and um, of course I would think of it, and I would that would be a time I would pray to her that if she wanted me to continue, that um, I would like her to guide me. And every time there was something. Every time there was actually one time where earlier on where I was. So we have a school um, uh, at our chapel, and we pray the rosary before school in the church. And when I drop off the kids, I'll join. And afterwards, sometimes I will do my 15-minute meditation. That's part of the third order, third order of the Society of St. Pius X, where um, I'm required to either go to daily mass or 15 minutes of meditation if I can't go to mass. And we don't have daily mass at this time. But I was doing my meditation, and I couldn't, uh, I couldn't stop thinking about her in this apparition. And after my meditation, um, I actually asked my guardian angel for a favor. It's documented that Padre Pio would ask his guardian angel, because he could see his guardian angel. I haven't seen mine, but he asked his guardian angel to go to somebody else's guardian angel to encourage that person to do something good. Or I think there was a time where they were trying to find somebody, a boy that was lost, and so he asked his guardian angel to find the boy's guardian angel, and they found the boy. But I decided to pray to my guardian angel. I asked my guardian angel to go to the guardian angel of our priest at church. And if this was what she wanted me to do, to have him reach out to me asking about Our Lady of Buen Suceso. And that night he did. That same night he sent me a message, and he had never messaged me about it before. I'd messaged him a few times, like with asking about putting out the clarification letter from the conceptionists and putting out the new cards. But this time he reached out to me, and it was right after I asked for that favor. And yeah, I think she wants to be known under this title. I really do. Just when she spoke of her title, she was very all the records of it are very decisive. You know, there's no ambiguity to what she said, and that she wanted to be known, and that she wanted to be known now. And that kind of links back to the why this apparition question in general. So I feel like there's a I know I said that there's a completion to it, but like a full circle completion. So in the other apparitions, they were at their time, and they, I mean, Fatima did speak about the future and like the consecration of Russia, and things to come. But I feel like when Our Lady visited Mother Mariana, but then she told Mother Mariana that she wouldn't be known until vastly known until the 20th century. There's a start and a finish of sorts. You know, it's not finished, because she did say that, you know, it would be into the 21st century. But I think there's something to that. I don't know what it is. But you know, the other day, my family and I were praying the rosary, and we were on the joyful mysteries, and it made me, when I announced the fifth joyful mystery, it stopped me, because this thought just hit me. So in the rosary, in the fourth joyful mystery, you have the presentation of the child Jesus in the temple, which is the purification, which is Candlemas. So the fifth joyful mystery is the finding of the child Jesus in the temple. And I think that in the Rosary itself, especially, I mean, if we dig, I think we could really make Our Lady of Buen Suceso, the Purification, and her apparitions and everything that happened with it. I'd be willing to bet that if we dug into it, it would line up completely with the Rosary. Because so you have the presentation, then the finding of the child Jesus in the temple. Well, with the statue that's currently in place, if I'm not mistaken, the statue of the child Jesus is the third statue that there was, and that the original is either lost or is hidden. And at the time that they find the child Jesus in the monastery, that that will be I don't remember exactly what it was, but there's something to that. There's something will be revealed at that time, and yeah, I really think that this devotion is very special.
Well, yeah. So do you believe, John, that this devotion is the one thought for the restoration of the church?
I think so. I think that this is, um, I guess one way to put it would be, because I've thought about that quite a bit. Like, why did she, with all the apparitions, why did she come at this time and then at that time and then another time? Okay, so the best comparison, I think, is our earthly mothers. When we are when we when we're younger, so in the early times, she gives us our foundation. That would be this apparition, the foundation. And then as we get a little bit bigger, if we aren't doing exactly what we should, she corrects us, and she gives us warnings. And I think that that's what the other apparitions were. I think that those were another warning, and then another warning. And we, her, the time of Our Lady of Buen Suceso of the Purification, I believe she calls it her happy hour. She said that that's going to come, and I believe it will. That's the next step. So in every instance, whether you're talking about her in these apparitions or in your earthly mother, every time that's your mother, and she's just as glorious in each one. But there's something special about that foundation, and then there's something special about when, whether it's when her hour is or in this time, I believe that's leading up to it. As an adult, I spoke with my mother, and we'd have conversations, and I would tell her, I get what you were telling me now. Like, even though you gave me all these extra warnings, I remember you telling me this, and now I get it. And I think that that's where we're at right now, is where we're starting to understand what she was getting at, because now we can see it. During the times of warning, we didn't always see. And I truly believe that a sign of it being a certain completion is in her title and the clarification, and that's one of the big things that really drew me in, was the clarification letter. That if those are the words that Our Lady spoke, and if they don't mean what everybody thinks they mean, then then that needs to be spread. That needs to be put out all over. And it would make perfect sense because if she wasn't known for so long and then she started to be known, um, how many times don't you meet somebody and you think that you understand something about them, but then as you get to know them more, it wasn't as you thought, you know? And um, I put a lot of time into researching that, a great deal of it. And so I pray the offices of Prime and Compline as part of the Third Order. Um, and uh, uh, so during, I believe it was the office of Prime, we would read um, a portion of Psalm 25. And so there's in Psalm 117, 25. That verse is, "O Lord, save me, O Lord, give good success." And it would stand out to me because of um, the uh, the confusion of the title. So while I'm praying the divine office, it would remind me of this apparition. So then I looked over at um, the Latin because I've got it in English and Latin, and in the Latin, um, success is prospere. And so that got me thinking a little bit that I wanted to do some research and look at how these translated, um, um, how does suceso, Spanish suceso, translate to Latin? So suceso to Latin is eventus. Translated to English is event. And so to me, that was kind of a case closed. That Latin is unchanging. It's a dead language. What it means today, it meant yesterday, and it meant 2,000 years ago. So if sucesso is eventus is event, what is success in in Latin? I thought it was only fair to compare that. Um, well, which the Divine Office did, but I wanted to put that to the Spanish as well, which was so um, English success, Latin prospere, and Latin is exito. And so, with that not even being close, and with the sucesso eventus event, um, I have no question in my mind that what her intention was in English would be Our Lady of the Good Event of the Purification or Candle Mass. And, um, and it's not just a matter of, uh, you know, there are some people that will take pride in knowing something that somebody else doesn't know, so they want to go tell everybody, look what I know. And anybody who would do that, that would be completely wrong, especially when you're talking about the words of the Blessed Virgin Mary. But because it's the words of the Blessed Virgin Mary, people should know it. The consecration of Russia, that was done 3 times, and it was done repeatedly because they didn't use the proper words of the Blessed Virgin Mary. People questioned, I mean, for the first time especially, there was a whole lot of people saying that's not what she said. Well, we have a similar situation here, very similar. And I think that I think it's providential. I really do, because if we are coming into her time, then I think that if everybody would have known the proper translation the whole time, I think that there would have been a greater chance um, that some may have forgotten it, and um, it wouldn't be such a profound finding um, as it is. And I think that it's a key point. I think that her title and her proper title is a key point in in this in her prophecies, and if it wasn't, she wouldn't have said that under this title, or this title would be the support and safeguard of the faithful during this time of crisis.
Okay, so
Mhm.
I'd like you to share with us a final message to all our viewers about Our Lady of Buen Suceso.
Absolutely. Um, you know, love your mother. That's She is our mother. Christ gave us her as our mother from the cross, and in every situation, turn to her. And uh, in this specific devotion, um, I would encourage everybody to research it as much as possible. Um, uh, and anybody who watches this, if you would like some of those prayer cards, reach out to me. John Polcin Tertiary. Paul is my name on my YouTube channel, and I believe you'll be able to find a link to my email to send me um, a request. Otherwise, you can find me on Facebook um, under John T. Polcin. And there's actually a Facebook group called Devotion to Our Lady of Buen Suceso of the Purification. Um, and that's not to promote myself. That's just to um, aid in spreading the devotion. Um, but yes, if you can go to Quito on pilgrimage, um, do it. And not just for for the excitement of it, but for the graces, the graces for yourself, the graces for those around you, for the example of those around you. Um, yeah, and I say dive into learning about these apparitions. Um, Santiago, you've got great videos. Um, I've made a few. Um, uh, if you look up Father Adam Purdy on YouTube, um, he has a series of videos. Some of them were taken from Quito, Ecuador during the pilgrimage. And yeah, just dive into it and do it in honor of our Blessed Mother and for the salvation of souls.
Sure. And just to finish, I'd like to say that I just met someone on this pilgrimage that was cured from metastasis, metastasis, in 2018, 2019. He's from the United States, from the state of Washington, and he might be almost 70 maybe, but he got cured. I'm just amazed how he got cured praying the novena to Our Lady. So also, um, I invite you all to pray the novena to Our Lady of Buen Suceso. I will leave a link to the novena below, and I will also share your social media link and email for people to be able to contact you in the near future.
Beautiful.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing this interview, and hope to talk to you next time and have a deeper chatting about Lady of Buen Suceso.
Absolutely. Thank you, Santiago.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye bye.